Every single day, our world is telling ourselves, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. And it's not actual death. It's a shitty email from a client.
Right. The red line in the traffic. You're going to be late for the meeting.
Exactly. So when we breathe, we're letting the body know, like, you're safe, right?
It's impossible really to get into the body without also working. And most people are, living from here up, right? Neck up, completely unaware of their body.
We are the drug. For every point of suffering that exists in our body, we have the antidote. We have the remedy. And we just have to use it,
How you doing, Sam?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Feeling good, looking good.
Feeling good, looking good, smelling good.
Out of being Hollywood.
All the goods. We're all the goods today.
Why breathwork? You're like, where do I start?
Oh my goodness. People always ask me, like, why breathwork, or why did you choose breathwork? And it really was this journey of it choosing me.
Mm-hmm.
Breathwork found me when I was really struggling with my relationship to my body, my relationship to food, my relationship to self. The days of my life where I would just kind of oscillate between anxious and numb. Like, that was it. I was either like numbed out, or I was super anxious and then would over-exercise.
Sounds like most of humanity.
Right.
By the way.
Right. And I was going to therapy. I was doing all this mindset work. I was trying so hard to think my way through it and to overanalyze and understand what's going on. And I just couldn't. And I remember reading the book Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. And she talked about going to Bali and finding this medicine man. And it set her off on this spiritual journey of awakening. And I was like, that sounds great.
Were you in a corporate position then, or what?
No,
what
I was
life?
I was 20. I was working in a restaurant, and I was a professional dancer at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's new information.
And so, yeah. And again, growing up as a dancer, right? All of the...
What kind of professional?
So I was a professional contemporary dancer, and then I did hip hop and tap.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You can earn money doing that?
Well, like
professional
like $1,000 a month, maybe like $750 a month, like barely. You can't live off of it, right? Which is why I had to supplement it with being a server and, serving steaks and beer. But it was a time in my life where I was just like, I was feeling a lack of meaning. I was feeling a lack of fulfillment. I was feeling numbed out. And I had been seeped in personal development since I was like 12 because my dad was a big Tony Robbins fan. And so I like knew all about it logically, right? But there was a disconnect between my mind and my body. And so as I was reading this book, I was like, I'm going to go to Bali and find this medicine man and see what he says.
That's cool. You follow her footsteps.
Yeah, literally, I was like,
That's funny.
I don't know if this book still exists. It's probably online now, but there used to be this travel book called The Lonely Planet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so I
It's
bought The Lonely Planet, and the dude was in The Lonely Planet. It was weird, but he was in The Lonely Planet, and I got the address, and I got this map. This was like 17 years ago now. So I go to his house, and there's like this lineup of people, right? Because he's got famous. And
That's funny.
he looks at me after he does this session. I walk up to him, and he's wearing this long coat, and he's got these sticks coming out of his robe, and he asked me to lie down. So I do. And he takes the sticks and he starts like jamming my feet, like acupuncture or whatever. And it was so excruciatingly painful. I was like screaming. It was like so painful. And the only thing that he said to me, and you'll appreciate this, he goes, you need to go meditate. Like, that's all he said. He goes, you think too much, you need to go meditate. And at the time, being someone who was highly anxious or numbed out, the thought of meditating is just so uncomfortable, right? I was trying everything to get out of my body. I didn't want to stay in my body. And so I was like, okay. So I ended up jumping back on my scooter, going to this meditation school where I thought there would be a meditation class, but there wasn't. There was a breathwork class. And I look up at the bulletin board, and it's like transformational breathwork, 3 hours. And I was like, there's no way. We're going to breathe for 3 hours. Like, that's crazy. But there was something in me that was like, just go check it out. So anyway, I sign up. I walk in. There's this guy dressed all in white with a beard, and there's like 25 people lying down with pillows and blankets. Looks like they're about to have a sleepover. And I'm like, what? This is weird. I'm judging the crap out of it. I'm like, this is so weird. Everyone's so strange. And he comes up to me and he goes, are you ready to go on the ride of your life? And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, you were going to experience the entire range of human emotion. You're going to experience the highest states of joy and bliss and ecstasy, and you're going to shed away and release everything you're holding on to that's not aligned. And I was like, dang, that sounds great.
Yeah, I'm in.
So yeah, I was like, let's go. So he teaches me this breath pattern, 2 in, 1 out, 2 in, 1 out. And after 3 or 4 minutes of doing that, I can just feel my mind just release and all of my awareness drop into my body and my heart just explode. And for the first time in so long, I felt this like deep sense of peace.
I'm curious, did you breathe for 3 hours, or do you do different sets? Do you have a break?
Breathing for 3 hours straight.
Just without any breaks? Or
Without any breaks.
Did you change the breath pattern at all?
Nope. For those of you listening, I do not recommend this necessarily.
It sounds like rebirthing.
Yeah. Like holotropic or rebirthing.
Yeah.
That's what they do, right?
much,
It's like go as fast as you can, as hard as you can, for as long as you can, and hopefully maybe you'll heal some daddy wounds. It's like what we teach at Pause Breathwork now is very trauma informed. It's titrated because not like you can.
There are a lot of contraindications.
Oh my
for that
God,
type
you
of
can
breathing.
blow people outside of their zone of tolerance if that's how you do it. So, anyways, but I did it, and it worked, I guess. But if I had a ton of trauma in my body, it would have been terrible, right? I would have disassociated. I could have whatever. I could have relived trauma. It's just not good to do that hard, that long, that fast. But I woke up from that experience and I was like, why does the whole world not know that we have the ability to do this?
Right.
Like, why do we not know that we are our own drug? Why have we been told that we have to work hard to feel good? And we have to achieve to feel good. And we have to do all these things in order to feel this sense of satisfaction and fulfillment in our lives. And, you know, growing up as a dancer and actress and a stunt double and whatever, so much of the love that I received was for the things that I did.
Right.
So I created that connection. It's like, well, if I dance and I get first place, I'm going to get a lot of love for that. If I book this role, I'm going to get a lot of love for that. If
you were mistaking attention for love, by the way.
Yes, completely. Like those neural pathways were like, meh. I didn't realize that I could actually feel the sensation of just pure love without having to do anything. And so that was a really interesting recalibration after breathwork of like, oh, I don't actually need to perform. I don't need to dance literally, you know, to receive love. Within 3 months, I ended up healing my eating disorder. And I just became obsessed with breathwork. Did
you continue the practice, or like that 1 3-hour thing, you did that
every single day?
So you just did a shortened version of that?
Since that day, I've done 20 minutes of the same thing for 17 years, every single day.
Oh, no kidding.
The only time that I've missed it is when I've had like respiratory, like I couldn't breathe.
So through the mouth, 2 count in, 1 count out, forcefully. Yeah. And you're pursing your lips to slow the air down a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Interesting.
That's
just a sympathetic triggering practice.
Mm-hmm. So if I'm feeling anxious that day, I will do a different breath pattern.
Yeah.
I'll do 2 in through the nose.
Yeah, through the nose is going to be a parasympathetic.
And then I'll let go.
Yeah, like a ha.
And I won't force the exhale. I'll just let the exhale fall out of my body.
Doing the holotropic in the morning and the parasympathetic through the nose in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
Practice.
Yeah. And there, you know, like a lot of people talk about like, don't mouth breathe. You can't mouth breathe. Well, if 1% of your day is spent mouth breathing, that's completely fine. Like all of these, you know, like James Nestor.
It's not a problem with 20 minutes.
Exactly.
I think, you know, to your point earlier, mouth breathing for long periods of time in an intense scenario.
Yeah.
Without proper preparation.
Exactly.
And a healthy body.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I mentioned to you when we did our podcast, I did a podcast with Wim Hof.
Yeah.
And at the end of the podcast, I was super agitated because he was so agitated.
Yeah.
Like he was freaking out, like the way he was talking and his energy.
Yeah.
And I realized that his own practice has basically driven him a little insane.
Yeah, a little cray-cray.
A little cray-cray, yeah. And so
yeah.
I basically got back on my recording and recorded a warning. I said, be careful with this practice, right? If you're really healthy, if you've been doing breath work, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
But if you're new to breath work, I wouldn't start here.
And it was interesting is like a lot of people do start with Wim Hof because he is
famous,
the household brand, right? Like you think breath work, you think like whenever I tell people like, oh, I do breath work, they're like, oh, like Wim Hof?
Are you a Wim Hof instructor?
Yeah.
Totally.
And like he's done a great job at educating the market on breath work. Is his method for everyone? Absolutely not. To your point, it's incredibly sympathetic for someone who has a lot of trauma or a highly activated nervous system. It's not good. You're putting anxiety on top of anxiety.
Yeah. Not just that. It's not just the nervous system. It's you're moving mental energy, right? The breath is moving the mind. And so if you
Yeah.
have, back to your point about trauma-informed breath work, right?
Yeah.
If you have childhood trauma, which I don't know who doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
You tell me you
exactly.
don't, and I'll tell you
Yeah.
you're probably lying.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you could be moving some energy that you're not ready for, right? And this is what happened with the Kundalini community. Like there's some people who blew their gaskets because they just weren't ready to move that energy.
Exactly. And especially with Kundalini, it's like you're taking all of that density in those lower chakras, which that's where we hold a lot of trauma
For sure.
in that first energy center and that second. So it's like when we're pulling it up and trying to metabolize it and we're not primed for it,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah, you got to practice and prepare for the reintegration.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which is a whole different process.
Hi, Mark Devine here from SealFit. After 2 years of development, I'm super stoked to announce the launch of SealFit supplements and our first product, SealFit Electro Greens. This is the highest quality organic greens you can find, combined with electrolytes into one powerful supplement. Take with 8 ounces of water in the morning or add to your smoothie to get your day kicked off right with the proper nutritional supplementation and hydration support. And you can also use it as a pick-me-up booster during the day or after a workout. It dissolves immediately, and believe it or not, it tastes great. I've had many testimonials already saying it's the best tasting greens that they have ever tried. So, hoo-yah, SealFitSupplements.com, or you can find it on Amazon by searching for SealFit Electro Greens. Hoo-yah. Let's do this. Divine out. That is delicious.
So you started a practice, and how did that turn into like a business for you?
Yeah, great question. So I had that big breakthrough of like, what the heck is breathwork? This is so crazy. I remember getting back on my scooter, going back to my bed and breakfast. And I just remember the internet being so slow, and I was Googling, what is breathwork?
What year was this?
What just happened to me? This was like 16 years ago.
16 years ago.
And I just started Googling, what is breathwork? Well, like, what just happened? The science of breathwork, like all these things. And I was just
You probably didn't get a lot of information, did you?
There was barely anything. But I found people like Stan Groff and different
I studied him.
leaders, right? And I just cold emailed these guys, and I was like, yo, you don't know me, but like teach me everything that you know. So I just began studying with some of these guys, and then took every training or certification I could at the time, which again, 15 years ago, it was limited. Now it's a very different story. And I just was obsessed. And I was just a student of breathwork for 8 years. I had no intention of starting a business. I had no intention of building an app or building in this facilitator training or doing everything that we are currently doing now. I was just obsessed with it. I would incorporate a little bit into my like retreats that I would run, but I had no intention of like building Pause until 2018. I was driving from LA back to San Diego, and I was feeling burnt out with my previous business, which was Hungry for Happiness, helping women who struggle with eating disorders, emotional eating, and beautiful business. And
because
like,
you experienced that, and you healed yourself from it.
Exactly. Like that was that's why I got into breathwork, right? It's because I struggled with emotional eating, body image issues, eating disorders, the whole thing. And so when I had the breakthrough, I started Hungry for Happiness just to help women. So I would run retreats, and we would do support groups, and we would do workshops. And, I remember when I was working at the restaurant, there was a clothing boutique across the street. And one day after my shift, I go over to the clothing boutique, and I'm like, hey, what do you guys do here? Like when you close? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you do with the space when the shop's closed? And they're like, we close. Yeah.
We close.
I was like, I have a win-win situation for you. And I barely had any money to like spend. I'm like, what if I run workshops here for women to promote your shop and bring a bunch of people in? Will you give me this space for free? And they're like, yeah, no worries. So the first one was 6, and then it was 24. And then within 6 months, there was 200 people. We outgrew that little boutique and went to like a little local theater. But I used to run these events called What Are You Hungry For? And I would help women understand, what are they actually hungry for,
Oh, that's cool.
And so I ran that business for probably 6 years or so. But then when I got hit with the download of creating Pause, I had to park it and just go all in on this one thing because I was just so obsessed with it.
6 years ago, you created Pause.
About eight years ago now. Yeah.
Who is your like clientele?
Yeah.
Who comes to you?
The two main things that we do is we have an app and we have a facilitator training. So the majority of the people that join our facilitator training are typically wellness coaches, life coaches, people who are already in service of other people, or people who just want to be in service of other people. Maybe they don't have a business yet. Maybe they don't have, anything. They've never monetized it, but they've always been the person to go to for help. So that's the other type of person. And then for those people who are on the app, we have everything on the app, from releasing anxiety to helping you sleep to developing deeper intuitive connection to.
So if people just want self-healing.
Yeah, it's like self-healing. And there's tracks from like 3 minutes all the way up to 45 minutes, depending on, depending on your journey.
It's amazing how much breath work has exploded in the last few years.
It's wild.
We talked about this. I've been teaching breath work without naming it.
Yeah, right.
Since 2006.
Right. Yeah, before it was cool.
I'm like the OG for box breathing.
Totally. Yes.
And I'm like, wow, I should have I was just talking to Kath. We should have launched a breathwork course years ago.
I mean, hey, it ain't too late.
People don't understand still to this day what I do, because I'm trying to do complete holistic integration.
Yeah.
Changing consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how do you sell that? But selling breath work, people are like, oh yeah, I could do that.
It's the gateway drug, right?
The gateway. Yeah, I like that.
It's a gateway drug. Just like Wim Hof is a gateway drug.
That's right.
It's like when you give people a breathwork experience, a somatic experience, you open them up to a completely different perception. When they glimpse access to that different perception, they're like, whoa, you mean there's more to life than operating from our survival strategies? And then people are kind of hooked. And then from there, we can use the breath to facilitate other forms of work like you teach,
Right.
But it's a great way. It's a great way to get ourselves out of that
the access
survival
point. I mean, that's why we start all of our training with the breathing.
Yeah. So good.
Let's talk through what you think is happening at a psychological and a physiological level through breath work.
So when we breathe, and it doesn't matter the breath pattern, whether you do like more of an activating one or if you do more of a parasympathetic calming one. What we're doing is we're stimulating the amygdala, which mitigates the response. So we're allowing ourselves to not be so connected to our survival strategies. What we're doing is we're creating space.
The amygdala was what triggers the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
It says
Yeah.
good, bad.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it says bad,
Yeah.
then it triggers the sympathetic nerve.
Exactly. So if we mitigate the response of that and we say, don't work so hard, don't respond to that, then we're opening up an entirely different energy center in our body. We're allowing the intelligence of the body to come online.
Because it's not being blocked by the amygdala anymore.
Exactly.
All the time.
Exactly. Because the amygdala
and that's hyperarousal. So I think most people are in a state of hyperarousal because the amygdala is overstimulated.
Completely.
Because of all these stressors that are perceived as real stress, but they're not real stress.
It's like every single day, our world is telling ourselves, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. Look out for that, look out for that. And it's not actual death. It's an email from a client.
Right. It's the red line in the traffic app.
Yeah.
And you're going to be late for the meeting.
Exactly.
That's life or death for a lot of people.
100%. So when we breathe, we're letting the body know like you're safe, right? And so there's two types of breath work, right? So there's breath work for relaxation and then there's breath work for transformation. Through the studies that we've done at the 8-minute
Don't
mark.
they go hand in hand? Don't you have to be relaxed to transform?
Well, yes, but so from minute like 0 to 8, you're in that relaxation zone.
Right. Okay.
After 8 minutes of continual conscious breath work, you shift over to the transformation zone where you are not so identified with the conscious world and you go a little bit more esoteric. In that space, that's where a lot of deep transformation
it's
can happen.
It's because the monkey mind has been settled down.
Yeah,
we
have even more space.
More spaciousness.
Yeah.
You're calm, you're relaxed.
Exactly. So in that space, that's where we can process a lot of the underlying trauma that's in our body, or process even just like stored sadness, right? For many people, they don't, most of the world doesn't know how to metabolize energy. Right? So an impact happens. You do something, I get impacted. I don't know how to handle that.
Yeah, and then it gets blocked.
It's just.
I was listening to some thing. I think it was Eckhart Tolle was talking about this the other day. I was listening to his book, Power of Now, and he talks about he was watching some ducks, and the ducks got in a fight, right? And it's, but then they made up, right, really quickly.
Yeah.
And they both went off in their own ways, and then they flapped their wings vigorously.
Yes.
And that was them releasing the tension of that fight. So they didn't carry it in their bodies.
Yes.
So we need a practice to flap our wings, basically.
We don't know how. Yeah. And we don't have
breath
that.
work can be that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, breathwork is a tool. It's a tool, right? In the tool belt for sure. There's also like primal movements of just like crawling around on your hands and knees, pushing off the floor.
Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, somatic movement, somatic practices,
movement, right? Like one of my favorite practices to do when I'm feeling just like irritated or like that sense of like, oh, just like F everything is taking a deep breath in through the nose and then pulling the energy up through all of my energy centers. So like holding it at the top and then locking the shoulders down and just squeezing every single muscle and like really allowing the energy to shoot up. And it's like,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And like really getting the energy out and then and doing that a couple times. Yeah. That just takes me from like an agitated, irritated state back down into relaxation. And then my brain, like even just doing it now, I'm like, oh.
Like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah. My brain's like, we're more clear.
Right.
Yeah, it's wild.
So you're talking about the link between somatic experiencing and breath work, right?
Yeah.
There really is a powerful link. We learned that through yoga. Catherine and I have got like over 1,000 hours or more of teacher training. And,
so crazy.
And it's impossible really to get into the body without also working with the breath.
Absolutely.
And most people are, living from here up, right? Neck up, and completely unaware of their body.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be loosely aware of it.
Yeah.
And they can stimulate it through, obviously through coffee, drugs, alcohol, and exercise.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're not really embodying their body.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the most interesting things that I love teaching is every single emotional state has a corresponding breath pattern.
That's right. You could even make the claim that every mental state has a mind and emotions are closely related.
Yes.
And so breath affects the mind and the emotions.
Yes, exactly.
And vice versa.
100%. 100%. And I would say 99.9% of the world is living in a place where their external world is dictating their emotionality, therefore dictating their breath. And they don't realize that they're actually in control.
And dictating their thought patterns.
Exactly.
Or at least influencing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have to ask ourselves, how do I actually want to feel? And for me, like my favorite state, I have these shower notes in my shower where I like write like my goals, my intentions, or whatever.
You spend a lot of time in the shower?
All the time. I love the shower. And we have a cold plunge at home.
I'm in and out in like 45 seconds.
Oh my God, funny. We have a cold plunge at home. And so after the cold plunge, I'll just take like the longest shower. Eric's like, you are wasting. California is in a drought. Actually, it's not anymore.
You know what?
But he's like, it's because of you.
Let's just debunk that, right? I kid you not, for the last 2 years, this truck from the water district comes into my neighborhood and opens up the fire hydrant and just lets the water run for hours, like sometimes the entire day. And we're like, dude, like 3 years ago, California was threatening us.
Yes.
And now you're just releasing the water.
Now you're just letting it all hang out.
I don't believe anything you say anymore.
You can't believe anything anymore on the news.
Pretty much not. Yeah, we won't go there.
Yeah, exactly. Let's turn this political.
All
I'm kidding.
country needs some breath work, right?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
Pause, breathe.
Exactly.
Let's get our shit together here.
Oh my God. Make an emotional suffering optional, one breath at a time.
Right.
So
where were we?
What was it talking about? So I was in the shower, right? Okay, so I was in the shower. I have these shower notes that whatever. I just write different goals on them and things. But one of them is I am calm and energized. And that's my favorite state to be in, where my body is completely calm, but my
totally get that.
mind is super
I talk about
energized.
that as like being like a coiled spring. Like it's so it's ready for anything.
Yes.
But in that state, it's calm.
Yes.
Right? It's not doing anything.
Yes.
It's just in a state of ready awareness. So that's like the Zen master. Or the martial arts Zen master.
Yes.
Right? Who can be sitting there in meditation, but if someone snuck up behind him, he would
exactly.
First he would sense it and then he'd leap into action.
Exactly.
Like a tiger.
I love that. And I love that state. And breath work for me, that's where I get to.
Right.
where my body is just completely relaxed despite what's happening in my world. You know,
Right.
it could be, there
You're
could be
in
a
control of
million
the inner
things.
state,
Yeah,
regardless
exactly.
of what's happening in the outer.
Exactly. And that's one of the most powerful things that we can possibly embody as humans, is realizing that we are actually completely in control of our state.
Well, we can be.
We can be. We can be.
With
And
some
the
freedom.
question is, will you choose to be?
Right. The choice is to do the work to be free.
100%.
Because it's not just, oh yeah, I want to be free, and I understand what
Yeah.
Samantha's talking about, so
Yeah.
I'm free now.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the conditioning is too intense. And the training
Exactly.
programs of our culture are too intense.
Yes.
Most people have no free will. They
Exactly.
have no idea that they're running just a complete software program
Exactly.
of someone else's agenda, and
Exactly.
they're marching like good little soldiers.
Yes.
And you don't just suddenly break free of that
Mm-hmm.
by one intention or one
100%.
breathwork practice. You know.
100%.
It takes
Yeah.
time. and
It
energy.
takes so much time. And one of the maps that I love referring to when I'm noticing my behaviors in certain situations is just like the classic archetypes from movies, right? You have the guide, you got the hero, you got the villain, and you
Right.
got the victim. And when I'm feeling in a low state, chances are I'm operating either in the victim or in the villain.
Right.
Temporarily, right? That's not my resting position, but temporarily I've chosen that archetype of like, oh, poor me. Why is this so
Right.
hard? And again, it's like that's an archaic program in my mind that I learned as
Right.
a survival strategy.
Right.
How do I actually want to show up? I actually want to show up as the hero, because the more I show up as the hero, the more I can be the guide. And those two things are the most fulfilling states that we can be in.
I love that.
Like
yeah.
oscillating between like the hero handles challenges like face on. Like, okay, like this year, I keep joking with my friends and saying I peaked too soon because like my business was just like so easy. Everything for me was so easy with Pause for the last like 5 years. It's just been like gravy train easy. Like I hop on Instagram, do a little dance and make $1 million. Like it's just been easy, right? Like I don't know. But this last year I've had to like really work.
Right.
Like more so, and I've had
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, gosh, I thought I was
Everything
gonna be like
goes
just
in cycles, right?
Yeah.
Like yogis say 7 years, so
yeah.
6 to 7 years, or maybe 10.
Well, my 7 years of easy
Yeah.
are over.
My 7 years of hard is coming to a close right now.
Oh.
And I'm heading back on.
Oh,
that,
hell
so-
yeah. Hell
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, well,
right?
we'll swap.
Put
We'll
down,
swap,
boom.
okay? But like, and I share that to say I've had big challenges this year in business and in just like certain areas of life. And it's really required me to not take it personally, but like metabolize the energy,
Yeah.
grab the lessons and keep moving. Like,
Stay in that hero and guide
yes.
without collapsing into the
Totally.
victim. Yeah.
Because it's so easy to collapse into victim. Why is this happening to me? Why?
You know, before we started, we talked about the need for renewal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think this is a really important thing for a lot of folks to understand is like nothing stays the same.
Yeah.
Whatever business you build or life you want to have, it's gotta renew.
Yeah.
So either you develop a practice of like constant renewal,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually very challenging because you know things don't change that fast in a business world, or you have to have a strategy to really pay attention to when renewal is being asked for or called for.
Yeah.
This is what's happening with you right now.
For sure.
Right?
And
It's simplification.
yeah. Yes.
Something new needs to emerge.
100%.
Same thing with me. Like something new is trying to emerge. Sometimes we hang on too long. Like I got some business stuff that I've got claw marks on. It's hung on
Dude,
for so
same.
long.
Same.
I just do not want to let go of
And
it.
my lesson now, as we're going through this, is be quicker to let go and
Yeah.
be more trusting to just have the white space and wait for the next thing to come in.
Right.
But there's times where it's like so connected to like my ego of like, but I spend so much time on
I know, it's such a great
it.
brand.
It's so
People love it.
great.
Right.
People love that. Yeah, Sam,
I
move
totally
on.
agree.
You know, so yeah, this has been a season of simplification because I just realized I was sharing before we press record of like we've just been doing way too many things.
Right.
Too many offers, too many products, too many things. What are we the best in the world at? We're the best in the world at training people to become breathwork facilitators.
Boom.
Boom. End story. Let's just go all in on that one thing. And so that's what we realigned the team to yesterday, which feels really good.
So you're going to ditch the somatic program you have?
we'll have it as like a back end offer.
Yeah, you just won't focus on it.
Yeah. So right now our market is so confused. We're like 6-figure retreats, somatic this, like we have all these things. It's like, no.
just sell the
On the
main
front
thing.
end, people will have no idea that we have a high level mastermind. They'll have no idea that we have a somatic coaching program. I'm telling you right now. So now you guys know, but right.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to market so many things simultaneously. You just end up depleting.
You're
So
preaching
it's
to the
like
choir. That's
one
exactly-
thing, that's all we're doing. And then once you're there, if you want to do other things, go for it. But we're not going to invest all of our time, resources, and energy into making everything pop,
Right.
So
Let's talk about some of the different types of breath work for different things. We've already talked about the holotropic kind of stimulating, sympathetic, and 2 breath in or 2 count in, 1 breath, and then the parasympathetic in through the nose, and then a relaxation.
yeah,
But there's like countless different types of breath practices.
totally.
So what are some of the other ones that, what's a good practice to really get into your body, like to get into experiencing the body for people who have trouble accessing that?
Yeah. So why I love breath work so much and somatic work so much is breath is the foundation, right? And then we can layer things on top of the foundation to change the experience, right? So we have breath work. I'm just sitting here and I'm going, okay, well, that's great. How would it change the experience if I add an intention, right? So the intention could be breathing in my power, releasing fear, right? So it's like a second layer. Okay, cool. Let's go with that. Now, how would it change if I focused on visualization and I added that layer of visualization? And if I want embodiment, what if every single time I exhaled, I thought about my mind dropping into my body? And now I'm actually not breathing through my mouth and my lungs. I'm using my heart to breathe.
Yeah.
So we can keep adding these layers. And then there's movement. Then there's sound. So there's all of these different elements to a breathwork practice that shift the trajectory and the outcome of it, depending on what we
You
want.
just described yoga, by the way.
Right.
Real traditional yoga.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like the
This
different
has
layers.
all those elements.
Yes,
in it.
100%. 100%.
You say breath work is the new yoga. Is that what you mean, that people are more
Yeah, like what I mean by that.
interested in breath work as a more fatty thing, or just because maybe it's an easier access point than yoga is for a lot of people? Or maybe I'm putting words in your mouth here. Maybe yoga has been corrupted by the American dream machine
that's
turned
true.
into stretchy, bendy, sweaty.
That's true.
It's not real yoga.
That's exactly. That is true. Yeah. The reason why I say that is because yoga got so popular 25 years ago. Right? You got like the Lululemon, like all these big brands like making it so cool.
Co-opted by the commercials interest.
Exactly. And the same thing's going to happen with breathwork.
Right.
I know it. Of course. Of course. Anytime big brands have an opportunity to monetize on people's interest, they're going to do it. Right. So like companies like
it's
ours.
good though. More people doing it.
Well, that's what
hopefully.
I mean.
It's not good if they suck the life out of it, or the soul out of it.
Exactly. Which they will do,
They will.
just like they did to yoga. And there's still going to be companies that are still mindful of the origin and of the ancient wisdom of it and keeping it as connected to its originality as possible. But we know what's going to happen. Corporate greed is corporate greed. They'll do it in any industry. They'll capitalize and monetize in any industry that they can.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, for me, it's still going to be a net positive because you're still going to have people breathing and you're still going to have people doing amazing stuff, right?
Yeah.
So the momentum of it is getting more and more. It's growing 400% year after year. Like people are catching on.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's
been doing
amazing.
that since
There's
2018.
actually studios opening up now.
Yes, I know.
Literally just about breathing or longevity type studios. I did a podcast with Whole Foods founder. Anyways, it's a big holistic training center that has like really high quality whole foods. It's got breath work, it's got yoga, it's got meditation, it's got functional fitness, and it's got pickleball.
Of course.
That one cracked me up.
Where is
Pickleball.
this?
Well, the first one, I think they're up in LA, the first one he's opening, one of the big cities. But
That's epic.
Love.life, yeah. So they're putting a lot
Love.life.
of some money, big money going into these types of things now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's one here in Cardiff. I don't know if you've seen it, but their main thing is like peptides, but they also have breath work and this and that. And it's just like massively funded, beautiful, gorgeous building. Wow. I drove past it the other day. I'm like, where'd that come from? Right? But there's so much money being poured into wellness.
I don't see how they're not all going to make it, just like any other.
Yeah.
The pioneers.
Yeah, exactly.
Take the arrows and settlers take the land.
Exactly. But if John can build Whole Foods, I think that dude knows a thing or two.
He knows something about it. Yeah, that's cool to see amongst billionaires. You don't see too many billionaires who are on the kind of leading edge of that transformation movement.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like we do need more money fueling these things that are going to change the world.
Yeah.
So
if someone listening is like, yeah, I've heard of that, but breathwork is intimidating. It's like hard. It is hard work.
Well, it's breath work. You got to work.
It's breath work.
Right?
So what's a good way for someone who's new to breath work to like maybe ease into it, experience the benefits, overcome some anxiety or some fears?
We've intentionally curated and cultivated our method to be trauma informed, which basically means we're being mindful of the body's systems as we're bringing in more energy, right? So titration is really important. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with that word, it's slowly opening up our window of tolerance. The body can tolerate a lot of energy, but it's just like anything.
Yeah. It's
right?
Just reps.
It's like, exactly. It's reps. And because of certain brands and companies who are just like, go hard as fast as possible, there's a ton of people out there who hate breath work because they had a really bad experience because it wasn't done in a trauma-informed way the first time they did it. And they're like, I'm never doing that again. That was way too much. So I always say, do 1 minute a day.
1 minute.
1 minute a day. And if the mouth is too much for you, go the nose. Do a minute a day and just see how you feel. And then go 2 minutes a day. And slowly, like what you're doing there is you're giving your nervous system more and more energy over time in a compounding way so that eventually you'll build up to that 8 minutes, which is where I mentioned we shift from the relaxation to the transformation where we have more of the benefits. But in saying
is that 8 minutes just from your experience, or is there some
we did it through brain scans.
Yeah. Or brain scans?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. We did it through brain scans. We did it through just polling people. And then I was like, I want to solidify this with some data. So we went to, there's a company here in Cardiff actually who has not the
QEEG?
EEG, whatever.
QEEG.
Yeah, those things. And then we could literally see the brain waves shift at that 8 minute mark. So
interesting.
Yeah, I was like, okay, we were right about that. For people who want to stay under, they don't want to go into that zone, go under 8 minutes and make the breath really easy. But yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of people listening who are like, I'm not into that because they had a bad experience. Try it again.
Try again.
Yeah.
And it's consistent daily effort. That's key, right? Not like, oh, I'm going to do all my breath work on Saturday.
Yeah. So I said, I've been
just
doing
like meditation. It only really takes root if you just
Exactly. I've been doing 20 minutes minimum every single day for 16 years. There's times where my world is feeling very full. And so the capacity, the more breath work I do, the more energetic capacity I have to hold all of the things. So if I'm going through a season like now where there's just a lot of things to hold and a lot of stuff, then I increase the breath work. I do it for longer. Yeah. I kind of just listen to my body in that.
Do you think breath work is meditation?
Yeah, 100%. I do. Yeah. When people say meditation, the image in their mind is how you're sitting, right? In lotus or whatever. And it's a very passive practice. It's active in some sense, but it's more or less physically passive. Breathwork is an active practice that has a lot more dynamic nature to it, but it is a form of meditation. It's under the meditation umbrella, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not like one or the other. It is it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's the access point, right?
For sure.
Even all the great traditions use the breath to access deeper states of meditation. It's also great preparation.
Yeah.
Right? Because the mind is, for the average American or Westerner, the mind is just simply too agitated, too amped up, and too distractible.
Yeah.
To actually meditate.
For sure. 100%.
Right? Like mindfulness or concentration training.
Like people with ADD.
So the breath work will tame that mind and prepare the body so that if you want to, right, you find benefit in, which I think there's great benefit in mindfulness and in deepening your powers of concentration, which will happen through breath work, but then transition that into after the breath work for a few moments.
It's funny, actually. Last year, I got hired to come out to a men's, I guess it was like a retreat, but it was all a bunch of like Navy SEALs.
Is that right?
Yeah, there was like 50 or 60 of them. I was so
Really?
intimidated. Yeah. It was out in Utah. There's a lot of them out there, I guess. They brought me in to do a breathwork session, but when I went in, no one knew what breath work, like the type that we were going to do. Like they knew like breathing to calm down, in your guys' training and stuff, but they hadn't really done this before. And they were all super skeptical. Like I could feel it. They were just like, who is this chick from Southern California? Like, what the heck is she going to teach me? I could just feel the judgment. And what's cool about breath work is I was like, listen, guys, I'm not going to convince you of anything. I don't need you to believe anything. I just need you to do the practice.
And just do it.
Yeah. And they're like, all right, fine. And guys who were all together, they're just like, they were going so hard, right? They were going so hard.
Yeah, they turn into a performance sport.
Exactly. Like, we're going to show
I'm going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
Number one.
And it was freaking insane. Like, within 3 minutes, like men were crying, and then at the end they were like holding each other and sobbing. We had this integration circle where they were all like sharing like their deepest, like it was so wild.
That's
it
awesome.
went from like this hippie chick, this is a waste of time, what are we doing, to like, oh my God, my life is forever changed. And it happened.
That's amazing.
In an
I've
hour.
had that experience many times with our groups where we call it breath empowerment. So that's about an hour. So it's not dissimilar, but we do intense breathing through the nose.
Yeah.
And then we break it into 3 sets. And at the end of each set, we get everyone breathing together on the same rhythm.
Oh my God, so good.
And then we hold our breath. And so we actually get to experience sometimes the breathless state.
Yeah.
Where you've got so much oxygen and everything is so clear that you literally lose the response of need to breathe.
You don't need to breathe.
You don't need to breathe. And so like I've held my breath for like 6 or 8 minutes just doing that. I'm like, maybe I should breathe now,
Yeah, you just don't need to.
Just don't need
you don't
to.
have like the urge.
Right.
But it is interesting how you don't need to believe anything. You don't, all you need is your
just
breath.
experience.
Just experience it.
Yeah, and you're right. You go through this whole range of physical sensations and, body's moving all over the place and releasing energy.
Yeah.
And then you have the mental, you overcome the resistance, and then all sorts of things happen mentally and then emotionally and then intuitively and spiritually. So we call those the 5 mountains. You experience all 5 of those in different ways.
Oh, it's just so
And so you're right.
wild.
Same thing. Like breath work like that is so powerful because even one experience can be transformative.
It's interesting, and everyone's going to have their own experience, and you may or may not experience something like this, but so much healing has happened in the sense of people's loved ones who've passed and they haven't said, I'm sorry for the
processed
thing.
it properly.
Yeah. And I've had it so many times where they're like, my mom came back and she
Same.
said, I forgive you for.
People are like, oh yeah, my father was here.
Yes,
He was with me.
exactly. Oh,
Isn't that cool?
So crazy.
It's amazing. Yeah, the experiences
so
when you
crazy.
process and the integration to hear some of the things that people have experienced.
During that same event with those Navy SEALs, one of the men shared, is so touching, that his wife was pregnant. She got to like 4 or 5 months. Then they lost the baby. And he said that the soul came to him and said, Dad, don't worry. I chose that. I chose to come in only for 5 months and to leave. And you'll find out why. Like it's part of your journey, and it was my journey, and it's part of your journey.
Wow.
And so he's like, the amount of peace that he felt from that was just, because I guess it was just a recent thing that had happened.
Wow, that's cool.
Oh, it's just crazy.
That is amazing.
It's like we are the drug. We are the drug. For every point of suffering that exists in our body, we have the antidote. We have the remedy, and we just have to use it,
Are you optimistic about the future, collective future, not your own?
I am. I really am. And it's funny that you ask me that, because I've really been in deep thought around this for a while, because a lot of the people that I look up to and respect are not. And I had to
There's a lot of fear in the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear in the world.
A lot of things happening.
And I really had to get with what is my truth in all of this. And I have a very strong faith as well. I really believe that we have a good God. And I believe that we are protected.
Mm-hmm.
However that looks. The connection to that allows me to feel very optimistic. And I also really believe in humanity. I believe that, yes, there's terrible people in the world, but I believe the majority, way more than the majority, are like incredible people who want to see everyone thrive. And so we just need more work in the world.
We need more people to embrace the light and the positivity.
Exactly.
And then to share it.
Exactly.
And then the critical mass will overrun the negative dark forces that are trying to corral their
100%.
power.
And like we've seen it in the media, the dark forces that are trying to go in and mess some stuff up. And it's like, I really believe at the end of the day, love will win. At the end of the day, love will win eventually.
Can't not.
Exactly.
Right?
Will we have to go through a dark night of the soul?
Darkness doesn't dispel light.
100%.
Light dispels darkness.
Exactly. Right. So as much as those dark forces are trying to, wave in, it's eventually, I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but eventually it's not going to win.
I agree with that.
And so who do we have to be as leaders, as business owners, as humans to be able to keep holding the light and keep shining like, hey guys, this way, this way, this way, this way,
key
this
is
way.
To stay out of fear.
The key is to stay out of fear.
If you fall into fear, they win.
Exactly. And so that's one of the biggest practices that I have of like any ounce of fear of my body, how can I alchemize that back into truth? Because it's just false evidence appearing real. It's just other people's bullshit. It's blah. So it's like the more that we can keep our bodies full of light and not denying our darkness because we all have it, but alchemize it, let it go, like move through it, the more that we can be powerful leaders for people to follow and look up to. And I'm really clear, like my mission on this planet is to develop as many leaders as possible for people to be like, come this way, come this way, come this way.
That's awesome.
And I had to sit with myself and go like, am I just ignoring it? And no, I'm not. I see what's going on.
You're not in denial.
No, I'm not in denial at all. I see what's going on.
It's going to be messy, but
it's going to be messy, and we can do hard things.
There's equal parts beauty.
100%.
Like everything is in balance.
100%. Like as messy and crazy as COVID was, I believe
good stuff came out.
Yeah,
even though it was ugly.
Exactly, because people's got ripped apart.
Woke a lot of people
and
up.
It woke them up, and they're like, "Oh wait, I can't trust the media. I can't trust like all doctors. No, you have to do your own damn research. You can't trust. It's like we were woken up to like you have to think for yourself.
You have to think for yourself.
Yeah.
And we got to take care of our own health.
Exactly.
Like the bloom is off the rose. The government's not going to do it.
100%. Oh, you thought the government was going to help you?
Pfizer's not going to take care of your health.
Yeah, exactly. Pfizer just wants your money, Becky. So it's like, I think critical thinking and intuition is our superpower. And I think COVID really woke us up to needing to use it on a deeper level. We all have it. We all have critical thinking and intuition, but it's easy to give our power away to the government. It's easy to give our power away to some effing mandate. It's the harder thing to do is actually critically think about what is really going on and feel into what is really going on.
And in order to do that, you need to pause.
Yes.
Breathe.
Yes.
Think.
Yes, exactly.
Before you act.
Exactly. All of that.
That was our acronym in the SEALs. Pause, breathe, think, act. BBTA.
Really?
Yeah.
Pause, breathe.
Pause, breathe, think, and act.
That's great.
So the pause, breathe, and think are all, those are all take some skill.
Yeah.
Skillful means.
Yeah. I would add pause, breathe, think, feel, act.
Yeah, I like
that. But sometimes in the SEALs, you don't want to feel, right? You just want to go for it.
Well,
I mean, I don't know. I've never.
On a mission. Yeah.
I've never done it.
Hey, Mark, I'm feeling a little scared right now. No,
Mark,
buddy, let's go.
Baby. Oh my God, funny.
Hey everyone, this is Mark Devine, founder of SEALFIT and Unbeatable Mind, and I'm super stoked to announce that my new book, Uncommon, is due out from St. Martin's Press this summer, July 16th. And we've launched a pre-order campaign. You can learn more about that at readuncommon.com to try to get early awareness for the book, which I hope will help a lot of people, where I go and do a deep dive on the 5 mountains of personal mastery: physical, mental, emotional, intuitional, and spiritual. Uncommon, simple principles for an extraordinary life. Check it out at readuncommon.com, and thank you for your support and being part of the change that you want to see in this world. Hoo-yah. Divine out.
That's awesome. Well, Sam, it's been amazing.
Oh,
we got to wrap this up.
This has been so fun.
What a great conversation.
Yeah, so great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure and an honor. And thanks for doing what you're doing. Good luck with your business transformation.
Yeah, I'm going to come over and transform yours too.
Like I said, I'm actually going to take you up on it probably. I really need some help. I need an objective eye.
I'm so down.
Where can people find more about your stuff?
PauseBreathwork.com is where you're going to find the app. We have a free 14-day trial if you want to check that out. And then we have our 6-month trauma-informed breathwork facilitator program like we talked about on the show. So pausebreathwork.com/facilitator. You can apply there. And then I'm Samantha Skelly on Instagram. That's where all the shenanigans go down over there.
So you just do one platform, Instagram?
We have pausebreathwork.com as well, or Pause Breathwork Instagram as well.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
You don't use also Facebook and TikTok and...
I mean, simplicity, Mark, you know what I'm saying?
I know. I'm learning.
I got like my podcast and I got my Instagram, and we do paid media and that kind of thing. But like, I don't show up on TikTok. I'll show up on Instagram. So if people want to connect with me as a person, come to Instagram. That's the best spot there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hoo-yah.
Hoo-yah. We did it.